I could. She told me 3 things that I needed to hear clearly. First, because both our names were on the deed, Ryan had no legal authority to unilaterally give or rent the property to anyone. A co-owner cannot make a binding property decision without the other co-owner's consent. What Ryan had done by inviting Trevor and Dana was invite guests without my permission, which, while a serious marital issue, did not transfer any property rights to Trevor. Second, Trevor and Dana had no legal right to occupy the property and could be asked to leave at any time by either co-owner. If they refused to leave after a reasonable request, it became a matter for law enforcement. Third, and this was the part I held on to tightly, because Ryan had said to me directly, "It's my house too, I get to decide." And because he had made a financial decision affecting our joint property without my consent, I had strong grounds for a legal separation filing that would immediately freeze any further property decisions until the court reviewed the situation. Christine asked me what I wanted to do. I told her I wanted to file for separation that morning. She said she could have the paperwork ready by noon. I spent the morning in my office, working normally, answering emails, taking a project call at 10, eating a granola bar at my desk. Ryan sent me 3 texts asking where I was and when I was coming back. I replied once, saying I would be home by early afternoon. I did not mention Christine Park. I did not mention the separation filing. I picked up the paperwork from Christine's office at 12:30, and I sat in my car in the parking garage and read every page. The separation filing included a motion for exclusive temporary use of the marital home pending the court's property division review. Christine had explained that in Tennessee, a judge could grant one spouse exclusive use of the marital home during separation proceedings, particularly when one spouse had made unilateral decisions about joint property. Given Ryan's documented statements and the financial record showing my larger contribution, she said the motion had strong grounds. She had also included a separate document, a formal notice to Trevor and Dana Bennett that they were occupying a property in a legal dispute and that their presence had not been authorized by both co-owners. I drove home. Ryan's truck was in the driveway. Trevor's truck with the trailer was on the street. The trailer had been unloaded. Some of Trevor and Dana's boxes were already on my porch. I parked behind Ryan's truck and I sat for a moment. Then I got out, walked to the front door, and went inside. Ryan was in the kitchen making sandwiches for Trevor and Dana, who were sitting at my kitchen table, at the table I had picked out, looking at their phones. Ryan heard me come in and said without turning around, "Laura, I hope you've had time to think and you're ready to be reasonable about this." I set my bag on the counter and I took out the folder from Christine's office. I put it on the kitchen table between Trevor and Dana. I said, "Ryan, I need you to read this." He turned around and looked at the folder and then at me, and his expression shifted, not to anger yet, to something more careful, the look of a man who is starting to understand that something has changed in a way he can't immediately manage. He picked up the folder and opened it. He read for about 45 seconds. Then he said, "What is this?" I said, "That is a legal separation filing and a motion for exclusive use of the marital home. It was filed with the Davidson County Court this morning." Trevor stood up from the table. Dana had gone very still. Ryan said, "You can't do this." I said, "I already did." He said, "This is our marriage, Laura. You can't just file paperwork because you're upset about Trevor." I said, "Ryan, you told me this was your house and you got to decide what happened here. The court is going to look at both our names on the deed and both our names on the mortgage, and they are going to decide who was right about that." Ryan's face had gone through several things in a short period of time and had arrived at something I had not seen on him before. It was the look of a man realizing he had miscalculated badly. The 3 of them, Ryan, Trevor, and Dana, had a conversation in the backyard that I was not part of and did not try to be. I sat in the living room and read through the separation documents again and answered a text from Christine asking if everything was okay. I told her it was proceeding. Through the sliding glass door, I could see Ryan doing most of the talking and Trevor with his arms crossed and Dana looking at the deck boards. After about 20 minutes, Ryan came back inside alone. He stood in the living room, and he looked at me, and his voice, when he spoke, had lost the decided quality it had carried since the night before. He said, "Isn't this house mine too?" That question. After everything. He came to me, visibly shaken, and asked if the house was also his. I thought about the night before, the empty boxes, the announcement, his words about getting to decide. I said, "That's exactly what the court is going to figure out, Ryan." He said, "Laura, I don't want a separation. I don't want to go through a legal process over this. Can we just talk?" I said we could talk, but I told him that Trevor and Dana could not stay in the house during a legal dispute without my consent, which Christine had been very clear about, and that the formal notice in the folder gave them 72 hours to remove their belongings, or the situation would escalate to law enforcement. Ryan looked at the floor. He said, "I'll tell Trevor." I said, "Thank you." I called my sister that evening, not to sleep at her place, but to tell her everything. She listened to the whole story, and then she said, "Laura, what are you going to do about Ryan?" And I sat with that question for a long time. During the 2 weeks following the separation filing, several things surfaced that I had not fully known before. Christine requested standard financial disclosures as part of the process, and when Ryan's financial records came through, they showed something I had not been aware of. Ryan had, over the past 8 months, transferred $14,000 from our joint savings account to Trevor in 3 separate installments. Not loans with any paperwork. Transfers. The account had been sitting lower than I had thought, and I had been so focused on my own income that I hadn't scrutinized the joint account closely enough. He had been giving his brother money for months from our shared savings without saying a word. When I confronted Ryan with this during one of the conversations Christine had advised me to document, he said it was family and that he had meant to tell me. I said $14,000 from a joint account without discussion was not something you meant to tell someone. It was something you chose not to tell them. He didn't have an answer for that. What I was looking at, clearly now, was not a single impulsive decision about Trevor moving in. It was a pattern. Ryan had been making financial decisions about our shared resources, for his brother, in secret, and the move-in plan had been the final and most visible version of something that had been going on for the better part of a year. Christine said the financial transfers strengthened my position considerably. Ryan's attorney, whom he hired in the second week, called Christine to discuss settlement options. That call told me Ryan had finally understood the situation he was in. The separation became a divorce. I want to be honest about that because it is the real ending, and real endings are rarely tidy. Ryan and I spent 4 months in a process that was not pleasant for either of us, but that was fair in a way our marriage had not been in its final years. The house on Cloverdale Drive was awarded to me in the settlement. The financial records, the down payment contribution, the mortgage payment history, the $14,000 transferred to Trevor without my knowledge, all of it pointed in one direction clearly enough that Ryan's attorney advised him not to contest the property division. He moved out in February. I changed the locks the same afternoon, which felt significant in a way I hadn't expected. Trevor and Dana found an apartment in Murfreesboro. From what I understand, they are managing. I bear them no serious ill will. Trevor is a man who takes what's offered, and Ryan had been offering for a long time, which was Ryan's problem more than Trevor's. Dana sent me a text about 6 weeks after everything settled that just said, "I'm sorry about all of it." I replied that I appreciated her saying so, and I meant it. Ryan and I have not spoken since the final paperwork was signed. That is not a wound I carry. It is a boundary I set. The house on Cloverdale Drive is mine in a way it was always supposed to be. Legally confirmed now, no ambiguity. The deck in the backyard that Ryan and I built over 2 October weekends is still standing, and it is still good work, and I still sit on it in the evenings when the Nashville weather allows. I have repainted the living room a color I chose alone. The kitchen table is new. The mortgage payments come only from my account now, which is simpler than it sounds, and better than it was. A woman I work with asked me recently if I was lonely in a house that size by myself. I told her I had never in my life felt more at home.